Well, welcome. Okay, we're going to get going. Welcome. This is my name is Susan Brucci with Applied Survey Research, and with me I have
James
and Jennifer.
We are really excited to prepare this training webinar for you so that you can feel very comfortable participating in our face-to-face community assessment data collection for 2016. On behalf of Action for Healthy Communities, I want to let you know how much we believe in the opportunity to speak to folks directly about their quality of life. And we've been doing it with Action for Healthy Communities for many, many years and have been really, really excited about the partnership that we have had with Action for Healthy Communities. We love turning data into change, and we've been good partners to you, and you've been good partners to us. What we are doing today is hoping to give you all of the information that you will need to conduct successful face-to-face interviews, and we also want to give you a little bit of a background about why we do this, why we believe in it, the best way to pursue the data collection, a little bit about organization when the interview is complete, and finishing up with any questions our participants may have. So I'm going to go ahead with that and turn it over to Jennifer, and she's going to begin our training.
All right, we're just going to turn the computer around here so we don't play musical chairs. So I'm going to talk to you just quickly about the purpose for the CAP. The goal is to ensure widespread inclusion in the 2016 CAP survey assessment report. The face-to-face part of this focuses on targeted populations, making sure that they are included. The data acquired from the face-to-face survey are important and are used to identify community issues that may need some improvement. The survey is designed to collect community input on top health, economic, and community issues that residents are experiencing. The survey results will provide accurate information about the concerns of targeted groups in SLO. So I'm trying to figure out our technology here. I think it has to be on the arrow, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So here, let's maybe. As surveyors, your responsibilities is number one thing is to be unbiased when you're collecting the survey information. You're going to be provided with the following materials: surveys, clipboards, and pencils, and a large envelope for each of the individual groups that you survey. Okay. Here's an overview of the timeline. Today is obviously May 2nd. We're having the training. From May 9th to May 30th is when you'll have the time to be doing the face-to-face surveys. And we're going to ask that you return the surveys weekly, if possible. And all surveys will be completed by May 30th. So you've got about a month to do all of the face-to-face surveys. I'm going to turn it over to James.
Hello, now that Susan and Jennifer have kind of given an overview into the basics of the project, I'm going to start getting a little more specific with the actual survey itself and who we survey, and go from there. So to begin with, it is an adult survey, so we're going to be surveying all, the minimum criteria is that it's going to be San Luis Obispo County residents ages 18 years and older. And this survey is specifically targeted at 3 populations, and that's Spanish-speaking parents, dependent adults, and individuals experiencing homelessness. In addition to that, we're only trying to capture 1 survey per household. So that means if we see a couple that meets one of our criteria, and we'd only like to survey 1 of those couple, with the idea being that they're going to share similar values and similar thoughts, and that we only want to capture 1 of those households in the survey. So again, the last bullet there is kind of an overview of the requirements in order to complete this survey. The first one being ages 18 and older, a member of one of those 3 targeted populations, and only 1 person in their household per survey. And then moving along to the next slide, how we survey. So again, as you kind of start to brainstorm where you're targeting and how you're going to survey, the first thing to keep in mind is just to, pick a target area where you think you have a high likelihood of identifying possible survey respondents that meet those criteria. One of the ways that this has been done in previous years is by targeting certain organizations where those populations are known to exist. Additionally, one of the things that we promote throughout the survey is that not every single question needs to be answered. I mean, ideally, we're looking for completed surveys, but we also want to be respectful of the population and respectful of the person. So if for whatever reason they don't feel comfortable answering a certain question, it's more than okay to allow them to skip over a single question in the interest of getting accurate data and making sure it's a pleasurable experience for both the surveyor and the surveyee. Again, once we get into the nuts and bolts of the survey itself, you'll notice that we don't collect any personal data, any personal information, so there's nothing that will link their name to this survey. So that's something that kind of in your introduction to the survey, you can ensure the surveyee that's okay, and that their responses will be kept completely anonymous. The logistics of it is we're going to supply you with both surveys and clipboards and pens and pencils. So once you have that information, you'll kind of be you'll be targeting the populations. We'll go into a little tracking sheet in a couple slides here, but the gist of it is you'll have a survey and a clipboard and a pencil, and there's kind of 2 ways that the surveys can be administered. The first of which is ask them if they're willing to take the survey, kind of read through a couple of the basic requirements, and then pass the clipboard off to them with the pen and pencil, and then just kind of be on standby as they complete the survey themselves. The other option is if their hands may be full, or they prefer the survey to be read to them out loud. That's the other option, where you are actually filling in the bubbles and reading the questions and walking them through the survey yourself. There's a couple, that situation is obviously a little bit trickier, as we want to avoid any prompting of questions. So even though a lot of these questions may be assumed by you, the responses to the questions may be assumed, we ask that even in those kind of situations, you still read through all the questions and let them self-report the information. Alrighty, so once the survey is actually completed, there's a couple steps that we ask each surveyor to go through. One, quickly review the survey and get a feel for, and this doesn't need to be, a situation where they hand it to you and then you just kind of, skimming through it. It can also be, a little bit of a conversation where you ask the survey respondents if they had any questions. Was there any question you weren't sure how to fill out? Any of those kind of things. And if you notice a question is incomplete, you can clarify their responses with them, whether it's a question that they just didn't feel comfortable asking, or if it's just a question that they just happened to not see. Additionally, at the top left-hand side, just for our kind of tracking purposes, go ahead and jot down the location of where the survey was conducted. Again, this isn't something that we're coding or anything like that. This is just more to kind of get an idea of, where the targeted populations were surveyed, and so we can kind of get a general sense there. Again, we'll probably send you with a large envelope in which you can slide all the completed surveys in. So it's kind of have a nice little neat stack of the surveys to get back to. Oh, get a little feedback. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty, so now I'm going to kind of quickly review all the questions in the survey itself. It sounds like you guys will most likely have a Word document version of the survey, so which I think is about 8 or 9 pages. Is that right, Fred? Five pages?
I think it's 5. Let me see. Hold on a second.
Okay.
It's 5 pages.
Yeah, and so that basically we took that 5-page Word document and condensed it down to it's a single sheet of paper is what you'll be working with. On the screen here, you'll see this. The survey will resemble this. It's actually an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper on a front and back. And then if you're looking at the presentation on the left-hand side, that's going to be the front page. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, that's the second page of the survey. So I'm just going to walk you through kind of the general form, and then we'll have some time at the end of the presentation for any specific questions to you know, any of the survey questions in particular. So at the top, you'll see it says San Luis Obispo Countywide Survey 2016. Throughout the survey, you'll see a lot of these square boxes. So, you know, at the top of the page, there's a little rectangular box, and then throughout the page, those are all areas where we'll internally fill in those boxes. So anytime you see a box, just assume that ASR will be filling in those boxes. And anywhere you see a line, that is a spot for a written response. And then again, this is a scannable survey, so the best way to fill out a bubble is to completely fill it in as dark as possible. It's up to you guys whether you prefer to administer the survey in pen or pencil. In terms of scanning, pen is a little easier, but there's also, you know, you have the trade-off of if there's issues or errors in an entry, it's a lot easier to erase a pencil than try and clear up a misfilled in bubble in pen. So if for whatever reason there is a wrong answer in pen, just go ahead and X through the wrong response, or just make some sort of note to us so that we can clear that up on our end. And again, if you're going to use pencil, that's fine too. Just make sure to shade in that circle, the bubble, as completely as possible and as darkly as possible. And that's another thing that you may want to consider doing if one of your respondents fills in a circle a little lightly. In the review process, you can always kind of, you know, darken up the bubble just to make it easier on our end. So at the top of the survey, first we have a little introduction into the project. This is something where some survey respondents are going to be pretty, you know, just give me the survey and let me go kind of thing, whereas others may require a little more in-depth kind of intro into the project. So there's a short little blurb that you guys can kind of read through there. And then moving on to question 1, we ask, how concerned are you about the following issues? And then we have A through Q. And we have 3 different tiers: very concerned, somewhat concerned, and not at all concerned. Question 2, how safe would you say you feel in your neighborhood? Again, pretty straightforward with very safe, somewhat safe, not at all safe. 3, we get into permanent physical or mental impairment question, and that's just a simple yes/no question. And then 4, are you or is anyone else in your household the caregiver too? And then again, we just have a no/yes response. 5 is the amount you pay for housing, including utilities such as gas and electricity. less than 1/3, between 1/3, or more than 1/3. Question 6, you'll see it's a little different type of a question, whereas these previous questions have been a single response. In question 6, we have a mark all that apply. So if there's multiple responses, they can answer, in any given month during the past year, did you have to go without basic needs, such as...
I want to stop you for a second, if I could.
Yeah.
Okay. We are looking at one, for some reason, I'm not quite sure which copy got printed out. There is no question 5 on the copy we're looking at.
Okay.
Question 4 is the household caregiver question. Then it goes to section 6, the amounts you pay for housing.
Okay. Well, I think you guys may be looking at, you know, from what your copy, there were some slight changes. So I'll send out the final version as quickly as possible. But, you know, I guess in the meantime, it probably just makes the most sense. I don't know if you can even make out the questions from the PowerPoint presentation, but you can either kind of cue into that. So I'll try my best to kind of frame. I'll avoid kind of doing the numbered questions and then just review them like that. So
except for that one missing question, so we're okay.
Okay, perfect. So in any given month during the past year, did you have to go without basic needs? And then we have responses: food, childcare, healthcare, utilities, housing, other, or no, I did not go without basic needs. So, and then in addition to that question, we have several questions that are follow-ups. So if the respondent answered food, you would then ask, why did you go without food? And then we have another set of responses: no money to pay for it, don't know where to get it, no transportation available to get it, and unable to get it. Unable to get it. So that's kind of like, and we have that follow-up question for each of food, childcare, healthcare, utilities, and housing. So if for example, if the respondent indicated that during the past year they went without food, childcare, and healthcare, they would answer 3 follow-up questions: one for food, one for childcare, and one for healthcare. So that's kind of a little tricky one. I think it's pretty, you know, as you go through it makes a decent amount of sense. So, but I would imagine that if there were going to be any issues, it may be related to that question, just because, you know, the follow-up nature of it. And then we go into the next question: how long has it been since you last visited a doctor for a routine checkup? And again, that's just a simple time frame question within the past year: 1 to 2 years, 3 to 5 years, etc. Then we have you or a member of your household needed to talk to a mental health professional but have not had the money or insurance to do so? Again, a yes/no question. Do you have health insurance? And you'll see here we have a little what we call the skip pattern. So if the respondent answers yes, then they would skip the follow-up question. However, if they answer no, they do not have health care, we ask the question, why not? And again, we have response options, and then we have other. So if in any case the respondent answers other to any of the questions throughout the survey, you'll see that we have a line in which they can write in why. And so that's an area where a lot of people tend to skip over. So it may be a good reminder to someone, you know, as you send them off to complete the survey, that, you know, we do have, you know, other responses. So if there is an other response, feel free to write that in. The next question: in general, would you say your physical health is excellent, very good, good, fair, or poor? The next question is: if you're 55 years or older, please indicate if each of the following items is a major problem, minor problem, or not a problem for you personally. Again, we have the 3 responses: major problem, minor problem, not a problem, and that's question A through I. And again, if they're not 55 years or older, feel free to just skip the response. The survey respondent would just skip that. The next question is, what city or town do you live in or live closest to? So this is just a written response question. So we have a little line there where they can just indicate what city or town or region that they live closest to. And again, you'll see those boxes next to it. That's for us, and we'll go through and code each one of those into jurisdictions. The next question, which of the following best describes your ethnic group? Then moving right along, including yourself, how many people live in your household and what are their relationships to you? So the first sub-question of that is the total number of people living in your household. And again, we have a line where they would write that response, number who are family, number who are friends, and number who are in other type of relationship. The next question, do you have at least $300 in a savings account? Is there a working telephone where you live? Are you currently homeless? And those three questions are all just basic yes/no questions. The next question, we get into educational attainment with what is your highest level of education. And then we end with demographic information, and that's are you male or female? How old are you? And the how old are you is, again, a written response. And then we finish up with which language do you use the most? We have English, Spanish, or other. And again, if they mark Spanish, then we have the sub question: if you mostly speak Spanish, are you also fluent in English? So that's a quick overview of question by question survey. This is going to be the main sheet that you guys are working with. And at the top of another point, at the top of the sheet, we have organizational codes, office use. Again, that's all stuff that we'll code internally here. And then as far as the distribution of these surveys, we are going to, just to ensure that, you know, everything, the survey is on the correct paper, and to make it as easy and as easy for us as possible, we're going to go ahead and print every single copy of the survey. So we'll get those to you guys, and then so those are all ready to go. I did forget to mention that this is the English version of the survey. We do have the survey is also available in Spanish, and every respondent, every surveyor will go into the field with both English and Spanish copies, kind of depending on who their target audience is. Will kind of determine how many of each they'll have. But if you do, you know, approach someone who would prefer to take the survey in Spanish, that is an option. And again, if you speak both Spanish and English, it's kind of up to the survey respondent whether they would prefer an English or Spanish. We want to make sure that, you know, we're not, you know, we just want to make it as easy for them as possible. So whatever their preference is, whether it's English or Spanish, we want to accommodate that. Now I'm going to pass it over back to Jennifer, and she's going to go over the survey management process and keeping track of all the surveys.
Hello again. All right, so this is something new we're doing this year. In order to keep track of the surveys, we're going to be giving you a tracking sheet, which you can keep track of how many surveys that you give out in each location and how many surveys that you get back. So the next slide is that sheet, but I just want to go over. So in each of those locations, we're going to give you an opportunity to kind of explain what was happening as you were doing the survey. So, you know, for example, if it was raining and people were in a hurry, or you were at a festival and, you know, people weren't really paying that much attention, or there was a lot of, you know, distraction, just so that it kind of gives us a context for what was going on in each of those survey locations. What we're going to ask is that you keep enter the number that you give out and the number that come back to you, and then include that tracking sheet in the envelope that you will be putting the surveys in. So here's a copy of, it's also very small, sorry, the copy of the tracking sheet. You can see on the left-hand side there's a place to write in the location, the date, how many you gave out, and then how many you got back. And then you can also put in there the target population that you were looking for, and then any comments all the way on the right-hand side. And you can feel free to take up as much space as you need to if you want to write a lot of stuff in there about what was going on. And this is just a way for us to keep, you know, to kind of give us a little bit of the context and to understand how many went out and how many came back in. Now, I think I'm handing it back over to Susan.
Great. Well, that's the most of the content about what it takes to collect successfully face-to-face interviews. We absolutely love face-to-face interviews, and we've done literally thousands and thousands of them. And I think the most important part of having a successful interaction is, first of all, feeling really comfortable about your role and being enthusiastic about asking people to participate, and getting a chance to make sure that you are as welcoming and inclusive as possible, and give everyone a chance if they meet the requirements to participate. It does take only about 10 minutes. We've worked really hard with the team that's been planning all of this to make it as easy as possible, to take as little as time. The approach that you take and the comfort that you feel about why Action is doing this survey and what it means to the community, I think is really important. I think also, as James talked about, the discussion about what each question means, and as Jennifer talked about a little bit about the larger context of what's going on, helps us to make more meaning from the surveys. It is okay for people to say no. Don't take it personally. Just move on. And it's also okay for people to say, as James mentioned, that it's okay to choose not to answer any question. We will ask you to make sure that you're taking care of your own safety. Of course, we know many of these will be taking place indoors and within organizations and activities. That's always a better way to make sure that you're taken care of, but always make sure that you feel comfortable in the situation. Of course, thank the person for completing the survey and really let them know how valuable it is to us. Why we wanted to establish the tracking system is when they are completed, these are gold to us. They're so incredibly important that we really want to take their responses seriously, and we want to make sure that on the other end that we can get the best information and make the best meaning out of it. We think practicing is always good. It didn't take that long for James to go through every single question. It's nice just to make sure that you practice making the ask and responding to a couple of questions if people might have about the meaning of each question. We do ask if you have questions or need assistance to contact CAP SLO, either Biz or Grace is our main contact, and we're really grateful for them. And we're also grateful for Fred and the other team members of Action that are helping us. The last thing to say is that we also, every time we do this, we put out we ask for press coverage and media support. We think it's really important for community members to know that this is a valid and really a key component of what we're doing in this community assessment project. And if we do get press in any way, we'll make sure that you know about it so that you can show someone an example of what it looks like in the newspaper, or maybe it was on Fred's radio show, just to let people know that this is valid and verified and legitimate way to seek community input. So that concludes our training for today. This training will be able to be held by any person that's going to be surveying, and we really, really think it's important for people to participate in the survey and the training before they go out and survey. Before we end, I want to just let you know how appreciative we are for your role in accessing and really feeling comfortable in getting folks to complete the survey, being as diverse as you possibly can, and having an enjoyable experience with folks as they give us their very valuable feedback. Jennifer or James, any closing comments?
Nope.
Okay. We'll take about 30 seconds just to see if any of our online folks have a question or comment, and then we will close down.
Hey, would you hold on for a second? Because one of the things I think that you may have, you assume everybody knows, but in some cases our participants may not know, is that the face-to-face surveys are a small portion of a larger picture. Because I think, when we did this last time, there were a few people who were surprised that the face-to-face survey was as brief as it was and didn't understand that it's part of a series of further surveys, in this case phone surveys, of a rather more extensive questionnaire.
Great. Thank you, Fred, for mentioning that. It's absolutely important. This is a part of a telephone survey that is also going to be done in the exact same time frame between May 9th and May 30th on the telephone, on cell phones, in both Spanish and English, much more extensive amount of questions. So, yes, very good point. Thank you, Fred.
Yeah, and just to tack onto that, the telephone survey, we're targeting, we have a quota set for 1,100 respondents, and this is a subset that basically is to target those specific populations that I think were determined that may be underrepresented in a phone-only survey. So, and again, the telephone survey, like Fred mentioned, is much more, is very comprehensive. It's about a 15-minute survey as opposed to this, which is a more brief, you know, if I had to guess, probably 5 to 10-minute survey.
Thank you, Fred. And since you're a member of the team on an ongoing basis, is there anything else you want to add or make sure that we expand on?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions on this side here, so let my participants here go ahead.
I have a question. This is Marie Brinkmeyer from Senior Volunteer Services. Question 10A. First it says, do you have health insurance? So I get the answer yes or no. But then on 10A, you kind of carve out, if you said no, covered by Medicare and VA. I think people consider that their insurance, so that would be a little confusing, I think.
Yeah, I think, thanks for asking that question, and I think this is an example of, we were finalizing the survey until Friday afternoon, and so the one that you have in your hand doesn't track completely to the one that we just went through. So that is that's a place that we made a change.
So you fixed that. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Would it be possible then, if they're doing a face-to-face survey and a phone survey, that we would survey the same family? Or how's that going to work?
That duplication.
Did you catch that?
No, we couldn't.
Yeah.
We couldn't hear.
The question is it possible that someone may end up with a face-to-face survey and a phone survey, and is that something that these surveyors should be concerned about?
It's possible, however, it's probably pretty unlikely, and if they actually can talk a little bit about the telephone survey that they took already, then we could thank them and say, thanks, one survey per household is sufficient. So that's the major rule. The only reason that we're trying to be careful is because of all of the election time. It could be that other people are participating in other surveys that are not the action survey. So that would be just to make sure that they actually did complete this survey. Thank you for that important question. We appreciate it.
Okay, another question on here, so go ahead, speak up.
I work with seniors, and I'm just curious, most of them live basically independently. What is a dependent adult? What falls under that category?
Did you catch that?
Yeah, it's the definition of dependent adult. And basically, I think what we're really trying to look at is the relationship between caregiver and seniors or other folks that need help. So our definition is if they need assistance to get through their day-to-day activities.
Okay. Was that enough clarification for you? Okay. Yeah, our question on this side is clear with that then. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you. And, you know, we're excited about some of those questions, and we appreciate you asking them. We're using this survey to get a little deeper to understand that exact type of relationship. So thank you for the clarification.
Did you have any questions for any of the people who are participating remotely?
Sounds like no. Thank you, Fred, for your help.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Do you want to?
You're going to probably have surveys to us by the end of this week, so we can just verify that everybody gets them by either the weekend or by next Monday or Tuesday.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and one further question while we were talking, so hold on a second. Go ahead.
Okay.
You had said that the due date is May 30th, that's the holiday. So are you expecting them the Friday before or after?
Yes.
That was a multiple choice question. You can't answer it. You can't answer it yes or no.
The Friday before is good.
Okay, the Friday before.
Yeah, we're giving ourselves a little bit of extra time on that one weekend to complete the telephone survey, but we think that the face-to-face surveys will be done by then, by Friday.
Okay. All righty, thanks.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate this, and we can't do it without you. And let us know if there's anything else we can do to help support you, and have a wonderful day.
Okay, thanks very much for spending your Monday with us.
Take care, and thank you, Fred.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.